everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and I've got a fun interview for you. I'm going to tell you though, man, I was beginning to wonder if it was ever going to happen because we had technical issues when we first scheduled it. And when we finally got together, it wasn't without some technical issues on my end again. So anyway, we worked through them, and my great guest, Ron Sowell, was gracious to be patient, and we finally hooked up, and we have a fun interview for you to listen to. And we talk about his great new album called Dance Until the Music Stops. And the story behind that title and behind that song is well worth the listen just by itself. Ron's name may sound familiar to you if you're an NPR listener, and that may be because he's very much involved with their very popular show, Mountain Stage, which takes place in West Virginia. And so here's your chance to see him almost face to face and hear him talk about his work and the people he's got to work with and all the stories behind this album. You're going to want that album, so please order it from his website, ronsowell.com, and you can catch his radio program, mountainstage.org, or on your favorite local NPR station. And if that station doesn't have it, write him and ask him why not, because it needs to be there. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope are many more interviews to come with Ron Sowell. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. And yeah.
Hey,
you know what? I was beginning to think if this whole thing, and I've got to change something on my settings here.
okay.
Sometimes you get involved on something and it just seems like you're snake bit from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I just refuse to accept that when it starts happening.
Well, I'm so glad this is finally happening. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I apologize for the delay and all of that. But man, I was just fighting all sorts of crap on my end here.
Yeah,
and it's and Zoom has not been my friend lately. So
well, I'm not the most technologically advanced person, so I just kind of roll with it.
Hey, I am glad we finally linked up, Ron. And before we go any further, I'm admiring your background there of all those instruments. Wow, what's your pride and joy out of all of those?
Oh gosh, I have so many. My present working guitar is called a Bob Thompson. It's a West Virginia luthier who makes incredible guitars, and I have one of those. But I have an old Guild F50. Are you a guitar player?
No. I used to play when I was a teenager. I still have that guitar, and that's it, man. So,
well, I have a Guild F50 that I used for years. I have a guitar. I have a Gibson Hummingbird that
nice.
I got when I was in high school. I still have it.
Oh, wow.
And I have an array of electric guitars. My wife says, how many guitars do you need? And I said, well, one more than I have.
And you didn't divorce her over that question?
What was it?
I don't play and I don't collect, but I have a profound appreciation about the art of the guitar, both in being made and being played. So,
oh yeah. Well, I had all these guitars, and I finally decided they were not that if they were in the case, they were not as likely to be played. So I finally got them up on the wall, and they're beautiful to look at too. So works of art. So yeah.
That's I've got books of just pictures of guitars. I got a book that Jimmy Page put together of all of his guitars, and I just love looking at them. I would be, at one time I thought, Ron, that if I was to become wealthy, that I would collect guitars.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, well, that would be kind of selfish of me. And then I just watched the documentary on Norman's rare guitars. Have you watched that?
No, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Oh, watch it.
Yeah,
It's amazing. And after watching it, I thought, you know what? I would never collect the guitars because there's artists out there who need those.
yeah. It's. I think of that. It's like guitars are to be played.
Hmm.
So, um, but I had a friend here who recently passed away who must have had 100 vintage guitars, and
Mm.
but he just admired them. But it always seems to me, well, um, if you have a guitar that you rarely play, somebody out there is looking needing a guitar. So I don't know. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to this.
I think I'd rather watch somebody who knows how to use it, make music and art with it, and just admire it from afar, because
I,
my playing, I realized a long time ago,
yeah,
Ron, I'm not a musician. I took piano as a kid. I, dinked around and self-taught on the guitar.
yeah,
I just don't, I'm a better writer than I am a player. So
yeah. But look at you. You're all involved in music.
yeah,
This so you play enough to appreciate it. And
yeah.
I often tell people, thank God everybody doesn't play really well, or I'd be pumping gas or something. I don't know what I'd be doing.
Where are you clicking in from, by the way?
Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh, you're not real far away from. I'm in the Smoky Mountains. I'm in
Where you're,
Sevierville, Tennessee.
is that close to Knoxville
Yeah,
or
it's an hour eastish
okay.
from
Okay.
Knoxville. I'm
Yeah.
just up the road a mile or two from Dollywood.
Okay.
So, so
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
nobody knows where Sevierville is, but when I say Dollywood, oh, okay, got it. Or
Okay.
Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg.
So,
Sure.
well, man, I'm glad we finally are linking up and getting to talk about this music you've got
Yeah.
coming out. And before we get into that album, tell viewers, because I'm sure you've got a good following. You're on how many radio stations now?
Well, we're on about 280 stations. Yeah. On NPR
In
nationwide.
NPR. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you got a lot of stories tied to that, but tell people about yourself, what your show is about on
Okay.
radio, and then we'll get into this album.
Okay. So my serious, I call it my serious part-time job, was a musical director for a Mountain Stage radio show on NPR.
Mhm.
And I came to West Virginia as a singer-songwriter, and I had a couple of bands, original bands, and this show grew up in my backyard, and it's just been amazing. We're on about 1,050 something shows, so you can imagine we have
Wow.
4 or 5 guests on every show. So that's I've if you told me when we started this show that I could get in my car and drive 10 minutes to a theater and play with the best musicians on the planet virtually every week, I would have wanted to smoke some of what you're smoking, but it's been amazing experience. We have music from a lot of singer-songwriters. We have country artists. We have bluegrass. We have blues. We have world music. We have jazz, and sometimes we'll have a whole show of bluegrass. Sometimes we'll have a whole show of blues. Sometimes it's all mixed up. We have Celtic music, African music. It's just amazing. I met a lot of my heroes, got to play with a lot of my heroes, and
Name a couple. Name a couple.
well, well, let's see. Now that you
Now that I put you
now
on the
that you
spot, you can't
mentioned it,
think of
I can't
any of
think of
them.
anybody. That's right. That's right. Well, I was thinking about let me tell you a little story. I was thinking about this morning, and then I'll think of people I've played with. Dr. John for one,
Oh,
which is
wow.
kind of an intimidating experience. But, well, I'll tell you a little story about Dr. John. Um, he was this was he played when we do the show in the evening now on Sunday. We used to do the show at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we did it live. And that's in the early days. And so Dr. John had taken the early morning flight or whatever from New York, and he'd played the night before. I think this was back when he was a junkie. I
Hmm.
think he was still using. But anyway, he had that little uh, hat that little, I don't know what it was called, but that he was famous for, and it always like was kind of covered up his eyes, and
Right.
so he wasn't very happy to be anywhere at that that hour of the day. But so all we ever heard him say all day was, "Dr. John, would you like some coffee?" You know,
Little
Dr.
grunt.
John, your sound, it's ready for your sound check. And so we're in the middle of the sound check, and all of a sudden he looks up at us. It's the first time I've seen his eyes all day, and they're like road maps, And and he says, "Who the guitar player? What's playing the major sevenths?" Well, I had interpreted this chart, this very lush string backing chart that he had given me, as the chords as major sevenths. And so I sheepishly raised my hand, and he said, "Don't do that." So
Well, what were you supposed to do?
that was my introduction to Dr. John. But I tell you, he was one of the most amazing musicians I've ever heard, ever played with, ever seen live. Um, just extraordinary piano player. And y- I've met people like Tommy Emmanuel for the first
Oh,
time.
I love him. I've interviewed him a few times.
I didn't actually get to play with him on the show, but we played together backstage, and he is extraordinary musician. I was thinking about some of my heroes. Gordon Lightfoot was one of my heroes,
Mm,
and
hmm.
Gordon was on the show the first time, and he was. I was in the green room. Well, every show we do one song with the band, with the Mountain Stage Band, and our vocalist Julie Adams, and then we'll back up whoever wants us or needs us to play with them on the show. So I'm down in the green room practicing these. We were doing like a swing, jump swing kind of song. So I'm playing the
Hmm.
song with all these chords, rhythm chords, and I look over my shoulder, and there's Gordon Lightfoot, standing behind me. I went, "Oh my God!" And he says, we got through, and he says, "I just love that style of music." He said, "I've always wanted to be able to do that, to do all those chords." He said, "Everything I do is with this capo." And I said, "Well, Mr. Lightfoot, um, no offense, but I think it's worked out pretty well for you. I don't think I'd go changing anything."
I, I interviewed him probably about a year or two before he died,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and so gracious. And I used to work for a Canadian telecom company, and
Oh,
so when
really?
I told him that it was Nortel or Northern
Yeah,
Telecom or
yeah,
Nortel Networks,
yeah.
and when I told him that, he goes, "Oh, I live down the street from Frank Dunn," and
Yeah,
and that was
yeah,
our CEO
yeah.
towards the end, and he was telling me his Elvis stories and all that. I was so sad when he passed, but
Oh,
I watched him in concert. I didn't get to
yeah,
meet him, but I sent my albums backstage to
yeah,
be signed.
yeah,
And I thought, he was clearly tired, and it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
he was way up there in age, and to still
yeah.
be, it's like John Mayall was, just played right up to the end.
Well,
So,
do you know Clarence Gatemouth Brown?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was on the show, and he was backstage with an oxygen tank,
Oh wow.
and this was right before he died, and just frail, and just thought he was gonna, pass away at any moment. And then they call his name, and he goes out on the stage and does this really energetic set and plays and sings. So and then, after the set and everything, he was kind of back to his being frail again. But I there's something about music that just, I think when it flows through you, it revitalizes you, and
Yeah,
so
it does. It
yeah.
does. What is your as far as feedback from fans?
Right.
We are going to get to this album.
Yeah,
I
right.
promise you.
Sure.
But I'm curious of because I hit things from a little bit different angle. I get to
Yeah,
talk to people like you, and so I
right,
get a different kind of feedback.
right,
People kind of approach me as, "Oh, you get to talk to all these famous people,"
right.
and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just a fan getting autographs in the form
Yeah.
of interviews."
Well, that's a great
So,
way to get it. Yeah.
but what kind of feedback are you getting from listeners? I mean, because you've got the whole broad section. And if I recall reading correctly, you're originally where from New Mexico?
Yes, I grew up in
Yeah.
Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh wow, wow! You were actually born, but not left by a spaceship, were you? Right?
Well, I actually moved to Roswell when I was 5.
Oh, okay.
So, but I used to tell people I was born in 1947, which is the year of the UFO crash, and uh, I'm from Roswell. I said, you do the math.
Put it together. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Phoenix, but I was born here. So,
Okay.
but
Mhm.
your listeners cover the country.
Right.
But it's a unifying music that you
Yeah.
present. And
Yeah.
so, what is your feedback that you get from listeners from time to time? What's the most consistent thing you hear as far as a reflection on your show and the work you do?
Well, I think it's that you don't hear um, uh, really it's hard to let me put it this way. It's hard to find a place to hear live authentic music, and we really go after call it roots music, and it's really it's not uh, we do have commercial artists on the show, but they're generally people who also connect on a roots level. It's we look for authenticity, and we look for real performances, and music that people are expressing, not just really so much to sell records, but to express themselves, and it's hard to find that, on the radio, and so I think that's the most consistent thing, and the eclectic nature of the show is just, I mean, it's just amazing. I've heard so many people for the first time. Also, that's the other thing, that they people discover artists on Mountain Stage, because you'll come maybe for the headliner, and then you'll discover two or three other acts on the show that you go, oh wow, those guys are great.
Mhm.
But I've heard people for the first time. I can I'll never forget walking into the theater and asking our producer, so who is this Nora Jones? It was 6 months before her album broke and came out. I wasn't familiar with her. Nobody was really, and
Didn't
it's like,
know who her dad was, or
no, no. 6 months later, she was everywhere, But yeah, lots of people I've heard for the first time. Mary Chapin Carpenter. First time I heard her was on Mountain Stage.
Mhm.
Yeah, it but that's really I mean, to circle back to your question, it's really I think it's the realness of the show, the realness of the music, and and because it's live, and because our producers are always looking for something real and
Hmm.
something interesting. And it doesn't really matter what kind of music it is. That's the other thing. You can hear jazz, or you can hear country, and you can, like I said, and sometimes on the same show, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. I mean, I used to listen to NPR all the time,
Huh?
and then life happens, and you just don't find yourself being able to listen to a radio much. But that's one thing I've always appreciated about NPR
Mhm.
is you can get those things you're not going to get on regular commercial
Exactly.
radio. Now, that said, we have the argument now about government funding and NPR and all that. I'm a business geek, so I kind of try to look things through, data and such. And I personally believe from everything, because I have a lot of friends who still listen to NPR and now are able to.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a good commercial. I I think there could be a good commercial viability of support there, but it would have to be done in a way that would keep the the artistic purity
That's right.
of the stations, and that's a big if, because once money starts coming into play,
Sure.
I
Look,
don't
look,
care which side of the political aisle you're on, there's going to be leverage.
look what happened in
And
New York, you know.
so that, I hope it gets worked out, but I
I hope so.
do like that from a musical standpoint and from an information standpoint. I used to love hearing stories about things that I just never heard of before. And it was educational to listen
Right.
to. But so I hope it keeps going. I hope your show's not impacted on that. So
Well, we're like everybody else. We're just kind of waiting to see what happens with it and hoping for the best. We've weathered all kinds of storms, and hope we
yeah,
will weather this one too.
yeah, it will. I'm sure it will. So how segueing from the show to
Yeah,
this album,
yeah.
how did that come about?
Well, on the show, I'm a guitar player, harmonica player, sometimes background singer. I'm the leader of the band, and coordinate when the band plays with guests. But it's a support role. But my first love and my was as a singer songwriter, and I was a solo artist for years, and so I'm circling back to that, and it seems like
Hmm.
about every 10 years I will circle back to that. And this one, during COVID, like a lot of other writers, I had been telling myself, if I just had some free, unstructured time, I would write more. Well, COVID hit, and all my excuses blew out the window. So I have a long time a collaborator, a guy named John Wickstrom, who is originally from Charleston. He lives in Baltimore now, and he used to live in Nashville for a while, and I would go down there and write with him. But I called up John and I said, I really, I'm feeling, I've got a couple of songs, and I've got a lot of ideas for songs. Would you like to help me bring these to manifest these into the world? And he said totally. He was in. So about once a week we would FaceTime, and we wrote over the next year or so we wrote 25 songs.
Hmm.
And so then I trimmed those down to about 15, took them in the studio, and it eventually boiled down to the 10 songs that are on the album.
Hmm.
But I've been producing albums for other people for years, and I've produced several of my own. And so I'm very comfortable in the studio. I'm very comfortable with the production aspect, and I happen to be surrounded here in this little town of Charleston, West Virginia, by a pocket of really amazing musicians. And of course, you could several of them you hear in the Mountain Stage Band, and they play with people all the time. But the bench is pretty deep here, and then I had Larry Gross, who was our host for almost the whole show, at the length of the show, retired a couple years ago and was replaced by Kathy Mattea. So
Ah, yeah.
she's the new host. So Kathy sang a duet with me on the album, and
Hmm.
actually not more of a dominant harmony part than a duet, and uh, and there was a guy who I'd met with who played with Joe Ely. His name
Hmm.
is Joel Guzman, and he's an incredible guitar accordion player. He's got that Tex-Mex
Yeah.
thing. He's like the I guess Flaco Jimenez. It passed the torch to him in Texas as the reigning Tex-Mex accordion player. But anyway, I John and my friend John Wickstrom and I wrote this song together, and when John presented it to me, the idea, I said, this feels like a Tex-Mex song to me. I said, this is going back to my roots in New Mexico.
Hmm.
And the whole time we wrote it, I had this guy Joel playing accordion in my mind on it. So we did the whole thing. We wrote the song, we produced it, and I left everything open for him. And I don't know what I'd done if he hadn't said yes, but he I approached him with him. He says, "Oh, I love this," and so he plays on it too. So that was every once in I was able to pull in a Mountain Stage connection there with Joel, but. Uh, these songs are really a lot of different genres uh, and styles that I I I I think they all fit together because I'm the one singing it, and I think my voice pulls it all together. But after all these years of Mountain Stage and hearing all this different kinds of music, you know. It's I found that I was really that those influences really came out on this album.
Hmm. Putting it together, you said you've worked on a lot of albums. You've
Uh-huh.
recorded, your own solo albums and such.
Uh-huh.
While you're putting this together, were there any surprises that you ran into that you weren't anticipating?
Well, I think the surprises were, I had decided to not force these songs into a style so that they all fit together,
Hmm.
and and so I just wanted give each song the freedom to be what it wanted to be.
Hmm.
And so I put together a really great core band, bass, drums, piano, and electric guitar. And the thing that I had a song called "Who But a Fool" that I had written, started as a country song. I presented it to the band, and and they jumped on it, and it became like a Delbert McClinton R&B tune, and which I love, and I ended up having three-part, you know, women harmonies and a horn section, and I didn't see that one coming. And there were several songs like that just surprised me, and I love that. I love that when you sometimes you go in the studio and you think this song is going to be great, and it just kind of falls flat. You walk in with another song and you think, well, we'll just see what happens there, and it ends up just blossoming, and
Very cool. Were there, as far as recording,
Mhm.
the what were the differences you ran into? The songs were birthed basically in COVID. When I've talked to a lot of artists who did the same thing. I've met very few who said, "Hey, I was just stagnant the whole time." So there's everybody had this wonderful gift
Yeah.
given to them of time, you
Yeah.
know, and the other benefit was being able to spend time with family. My benefit was I was drug kicking and screaming to start using Zoom, and when it
Yep.
works,
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
So, and so aside, I mean, so did the fact that the songs were more or less birthed during the shutdown, did any of that carry into it, into the recording sessions, any differences that were marked from everything else that you had worked on in the past?
Um, well, let me see. I am. I don't know if I quite understand what you're. Ask it in another way, Randy.
Okay, to boil it down more simply, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of did COVID impact the recording,
Oh,
even
okay.
though it had lifted, but let's
Oh,
just back it up to a little bit higher elevation there and say, what were the differences? Were there any differences in putting this album together compared to all the other albums you've worked on, either of your own or anyone else's?
um, yeah. Well, I guess COVID did impact it in that it just was such like you said, it was just such a profound experience having that time and that all of us feel like that those couple of years was almost like a black hole. It was just like
Hmm.
before COVID and after COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that COVID gave me a lot of time to really think about what I wanted to say and really get at the root of and the essence of what I wanted to say. And I think the songs really reflect that. And the uh, there's a song that well the title cut, "Dance Till the Music Stops." Um, right before COVID, I had was visiting my hometown of Roswell, New Mexico, and a friend of mine had recently passed away from early onset Alzheimer's.
Mm.
Uh,
It's close to home here. My dad has it.
and my his wife was also was a friend of mine. She had worked for my father, and I was asking her about it, and she said, his name was Dusty, and she said, a friend of Dusty's, and when Dusty was uh, um, diagnosed with this, a friend of his came to him and said, Dusty, what are you going to do? Because he was still with it and knew what he was the journey that he was about to go through. And he said, and she told me this. He said, well, I guess I'll just dance till the music stops.
Mm.
And that I had a full body chill. And so during COVID, when I called my friend John Wickstrom, I said, John, I said, I don't know, I don't, I don't know what this song is going to be, but I know that there's an energy there. Then this needs to be written. So that's an example of things that I kind of stored. As a songwriter, you kind of store these up, these little bits and scraps and seeds up. And so during COVID, it gave me time to really plant those seeds and see them grow.
Wow. So speaking of that song, what the album is a
Uh-huh.
nice diverse mix of sounds.
Uh-huh.
It's like and you touched on it a minute ago. One thing I don't like when I get an album is I'll hear a song and I think I love that song.
Yeah,
So I get the album, and then it's an album of that song I love, and it's like
yeah.
too much of a good thing, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And so I love variety, but there is a groove, there is a range that I like once I get into a certain genre.
Right.
And so, you know, yours is varied. It has that same type of energy in there, but you have a diversity of sound,
Yeah.
and vibe and genre in there. So I know that it might be hard to answer this particular question, and that is, which song would you point to as a calling card for the album, or
Well,
can you?
well, I think it would be I, the opening song, which is called "Everything That Comes Around Goes Around Comes Around,"
Hmm.
um, is is really there's so many influences in that song and so many styles mixed up in that song, which I love about it.
Hmm.
That it's almost a harbinger of the rest of the album, what's to come after that, you know.
Right, right.
But I mean, it's very high energy and has is very produced and has three-part female vocals and a surf guitar, spaghetti western guitar solo. It's got a lot of stuff in there, but and you know some of the other things are very like the thing that Kathy sings with me on is a very fragile, bare bones, you know, open song. Do you think it's that easy? Um, uh, there, so that, but I think that I think if what that song really kind of speaks to what's to come with the rest of the album, because there's a you know there's a song about New Orleans on there, in
Mhm.
search of Creole soul, which I used to live in New Orleans and in the 70s for about a year, and I went back to on a significant birthday, and to as told my wife and my daughter and son-in-law to revisit. I wanted to revisit the scene of the crimes, and but I wrote a song about that experience, and it just all that New Orleans music just suddenly came back to me. And when I wrote it, I thought, well, I love this, but how am I going to make it fit with the rest of the album? You know, but I think it does. I
Yeah, I
think it
think it does
does.
too.
And
Yeah.
so you know, like I said, there's the Tex-Mex song is rhythm and blues. There's I have uh, it's all up to you as I play ukulele. It's got ukulele, tuba, clarinet, and it's and I love that. It's kind of a ragtime song, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so and that's the what to me when I that's what the song wanted to be. It didn't want to be
Mhm.
forced to the other production values of the rest of the album, you know.
Right, right. Are you talking about New Orleans? Yesterday I talked to Kenny Neal, the blues guy. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah,
heard him, but
yeah,
he's got some new stuff coming out later this year. You might want him on your show sometime. I love that guy. He's so fun to talk to, and his music is great. But what's your advanced feedback that you're getting so far on the album? I mean, well, it's the album's been out, has it not? For
actually it hasn't. Well, I don't know when you're going to be airing this, but the release date is May the 9th.
Okay, all right.
And
I was thinking
it,
it had come out April 9th, but you're right. It made the 9th.
it's May the
So
9th. So most what I'm getting is the people I've shared it with, and you know, and I've got a couple of we did one. American Highways did a premiere of one of the songs, the one I was just telling you about, everything that goes around comes around. But so far, I've gotten I've gotten wonderful feedback, from and just mostly my biggest fear was, does this all hang together?
Yeah.
Just collection of songs all hang together. And I did axe 3 or 4 songs that I felt were a little out, too far outliers.
Right.
But so I'm very pleased with that. I'm very pleased that the songs seem to be connecting with people. That's 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 the major job of a songwriter, I think, is to express something that you really feel and that resonates with somebody else.
Yep.
And
Yep. That is, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. So, what's on your radar moving forward? This album will drop in a couple weeks, and what are your plans once it drops?
well, I have a it's actually going to it's going to be released to radio and all the platforms, Spotify and Amazon and YouTube and everything on May the 9th. On May the 10th, I have a album release concert here in Charleston, and
Hmm.
most everybody who played on the album is going to come and play on the concert, and I'm really looking forward to that. Then I'm going to be featured on Mountain Stage, a set all by myself. I'm all by myself with a few, 5 or 6
Of your
friends.
closest and dearest, right?
Yeah. Uh, Sometime in August or in the fall, and so I'm looking to get a lot of airplay and reviews. And then it's been a while since I've toured. I used to tour all the time, and when the picture you have up of the album, that a young girl in the album happens to be my daughter when she was 5 years old. I
Mm.
took a picture of that. She's a professional singer and living in Nashville these days. So
Ah,
it's been a while. But when she was born, and I decided to get off the road for the most part. And of course, I was lucky enough to have my mountain stage thing,
hmm.
and I stay really involved in a lot of things. But I'm feeling the pull to get out there and play again. So I'm planning on putting together a tour in the fall. Yeah. So
Oh, great. Oh, I hope you come this way and, within kind of driving distance. I'm a caregiver to my dad, so I'm kind of beholden to that. But sometimes I can break away and have a little fun. And I would love to catch you if you're going to be anywhere,
well, I will certainly let
within
you
an
know.
hour or so.
And anybody wants to know, it's I have my website is ronsowell.com. That's SOWELL.com.
Hmm.
And I'll have, you can find out what I'm doing through there. Yeah.
Definitely. And tell people about your radio show and where they can, at what time it comes on, and the different ways they can catch that show.
Well, the Mountain Stage is what we do. We record about a 2.5 hour live show. Then we edit it down to an hour and 58 minutes,
Hmm.
put it up on the satellite, and all the affiliates download the show, and then they drop it into their programming wherever they want. So sometimes, like here in West Virginia, you hear it on Saturday night at 8 o'clock, and again on Sunday at 12 o'clock at noon. But I know they're in Bristol and Knoxville. I don't know if you get it where you are, but
Yeah, I saw that it was on in Knoxville, so
it,
on the NPR station here. So,
yes, we've been on there for almost from the beginning, and so I don't know where they have it in their
hmm.
programming, but so you can check your local affiliate, and if they don't have Mountain Stage, complain and tell them that you should have it. But if you don't have access to it, you can go to mountainstage.org,
Okay.
and you can download podcast. You can download uh, almost any show that we've done in the recent past, and listen. On the day of the show here in West Virginia, when it's done from a home theater, we live stream it.
Oh, cool.
So that's at 7 o'clock in the evening and Eastern Standard Time, and it's like last week, we just a few days ago we had Jeff Tweedy and
Hmm.
Warren Treaty, and
Hmm.
recent shows. The show before that we had Livingston Taylor and Sweet
Really?
Honey in the Rock. Remember Al Stewart?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Year of the Cat. Yeah, he was
Yep.
so and there. You just it's every show is 4 or 5 different guests, different kinds of guests, and if you don't like one, just wait 20 minutes and you'll
Well, I love how I haven't been able to listen much to it. Once I was introduced to you, I did pick up a little bit, but not enough to become well versed in it. I'm not going to try to blow smoke your way,
yeah, yeah.
but I did love what I said. I want to get into the normal routine of it. I like to try to support radio when I can, but it's becoming tougher and tougher for me to do that.
Well,
But that's where streaming and downloading comes into
yeah.
play for me.
Well, you're a busy guy, and I understand. It's hard for me to listen to music that that I'm not working on, or writing myself, or rehearsing, or or
Hmm.
or charting songs to that we're going to play on Sunday with the band, and with some artists, yeah, it's amazing. There's so much out there too.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
I will say, Randy, that just the feeling I have from you, and what you've expressed as your musical interests and way you look at music, you would be an instant mountain stage fan, because it's
Oh, I know I will. So I'm gonna program it into my programming of listening, because what I wind up doing is like this week I was telling my social media platform. I said, it dawned on me that this is the busiest week that I can remember
yeah.
interview wise. I'm doing 7 interviews this week,
Wow.
and I'm a one man band here. So interviewing's the fun part. That's the easy part for
Right.
me.
Right.
Then I gotta edit,
Editing is
and it's like, and I had somebody helping me on
yeah.
that, and it was, it's a labor of love, and so they got busy with their life, and so
Yeah.
I'm back to doing it myself. But and then I edit, and I'm going, Randy, you need to shut up more. The whole time I'm listening, shut up more. And when I hear this part of that, when I'm editing, I'll tell myself that again. So
Note to self.
note to self,
Yourself.
shut your mouth, boy. So,
Uh,
but at the moment you're suffering, and that's I'm sorry for that. So,
oh no. Oh no.
but man, this is a lot of fun, and I'm glad we finally got to meet and that we got the technical issues done. Hopefully, I won't
Yeah.
have any more this week.
Yeah.
But my door is open to you, Ron, and if there's anything
Thank
I
you.
can do to help to promote your work, please let me know, and we'll set up one of these and
Yeah.
make sure it works, and we'll we'll just have some fun with it like we did today. And
Yeah.
if you're in talking, you mentioned Kathy Mattea. I
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to interview her sometime. So I need to reach out to her folks and see if I can get that happening. And tell your artist guests, say, hey, there's this boy in the Smokies
I
that
will.
does interviews. You need to talk to him. You know.
I
So
will definitely. I will definitely do that, yeah, Randy, and I'll mention it to Kathy as well. And
okay.
yeah, yeah. This has been great, and I appreciate you the time, the and the opportunity to tell people about my album, and my music, because like I said, a lot of people, even locally, will tell me they forget sometimes that I'm a
Hmm.
singer-songwriter. And that's really my first love. And I'm very proud of this album. I'm proud of the
You
song.
should be.
I'm proud of the production. And
Hmm.
I'm very blessed to have so many beautiful musicians play with me, including my daughter, which I talked about.
Hmm.
She and Kathy Matea and this lady named Kira Small from Nashville. When we had a mountain stage in Franklin, Tennessee, which is right outside of Nashville.
Yeah, yeah. I worked in Nashville a while, so
We had a mountain stage show there. So Kathy still lives in Nashville. She commutes to do the show, although she's from West Virginia. I guess you probably
hmm.
knew that.
Hmm.
But I asked my daughter, who's living in Nashville, to if she could book a studio there with an engineer she'd been working with, and um, and I asked her to produce these vocals for me on my album. So we got Kathy and this lady Kira Small and my daughter Mira Costa is her name, and we went into a studio there in Nashville and did track like 3 or 4 songs on the album, and it was
Hmm.
such a as a dad, that's about as good as it gets, to work with your daughter. And I'm usually very hands-on with the production. I'm a one of the hats that I wear very seriously is as a producer. So I was sitting over in the corner, and they were just singing and making all this great music. And every once in a while, they'd look over at me and say, "Well, what do you think, Ron?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, just keep keep doing it." So
Probably felt good to not be in the driver's seat, huh?
fortunately for me, as you, I wasn't trying to be too hands-on. It was like I was the one of the rare times I actually shut up and let them let them do
If you
their.
write a book on how to do that, would you let me know? So I promise I'll read it with my mouth shut. So.
That's hilarious. I had a friend who was a who is a fantastic singer, a songwriter, most songwriter. And he would write these great songs, and he'd send me these demos, and Randy, they would just suck. You know, the demos would just suck. The song was great, you know, and so it ends up that he was so controlling in the sessions that he would tell everybody exactly what to play, and it would just stifle the whole sound. So
Mm.
finally, he sent me this group of 3 or 4 songs, and I listened to them, and they were great. And and I said, I called him. I said, "These are great." And he said, "Well, I don't understand." He said, "I they had this studio band, and I just kind of let them do their thing."
First
And
clue.
I said, he said, "I didn't feel like I did anything." I said, "Oh, Tim," I said, "you're learning how to produce." Just,
Take the hint.
just let them go, let them, So anyway,
Hmm. Well, that's great. I'm like I said, I'm not a musician, but I love,
mhm.
I can talk with people that have done the producing and things like that, and I know enough to know the kind of questions they ask. So, I don't have Pro Tools, but I know about it. I
Ah,
know it has a different output than recording analog. I don't play guitar, but I know enough about guitars to know, you know, that a 59 Les Paul is a big deal.
yeah,
And I like asking people who have a lot of collection, big
oh,
collection of
yeah,
who,
yeah,
what their holy grail is and do they
yeah,
own it and that kind of thing. So until you talk to a Joe Bonamassa who owns, he could
yeah.
he could open a guitar store.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, it's great to talk to you, Ron, and I'm glad we finally got it worked out. And you were patient. And like I said, if I can ever be of any help or assistance, please let me know. And
Thank
especially on an album, man, when you got another album coming out, let's do one of these. But if there's something else, let's talk.
thank you, Randy. And And if you're ever in Charleston, want to see a live mountain stage, hit me up. I'll put you on the guest list. And occasionally we come to play. We've done shows in Bristol, Virginia
Hmm.
slash C.
Oh yeah, that state line's right down the middle of the street. I've been there. So
And we've done a couple of shows from there. So if we're anywhere close, I'll let you know.
all right, do that. You've got my email address, and if I can make it, I definitely will. It'd be fun to get up. It's been a while since I've been up that way. I think the last time I was up there, Ron, I saw. Oh gosh, her name just slipped my mind. She's a blues artist and blues historian. Oh crap.
Not Roy Block.
That Roy Block. Her and her husband were there. A little blues dive there in
Yeah.
Kingsport, Johnson City,
Yeah.
Bristol, that whole Tri-City area there. And I love her. I just saw her on a Robert Johnson documentary I was watching, and she's a great artist. I love her. Love her.
Just played with a lady named, you should check her out. Her name is Christina Vale. And and the reason I mention her is because Roy Block was her big hero. And
Ah,
but Christina is a great writer, and she plays that finger picking blues style and slide, and just
mm,
amazing. But she was pretty impressed that we had Rory Block on the show 4 or 5 times.
oh yeah. I
Yeah,
heard Rory's Dylan album. Wow. I mean, that was gutsy to do, but she did a great job on it.
yeah, yeah.
She really did. She really did. But listen, my friend, thank you for the music, for taking the time to be with me, and having the patience to finally be with me. So,
Well, it's a lot more fun talking to you, Randy, than navigating the Zoom
oh
complexities.
God, I may write a book about this someday. So,
But thanks for the conversation. I've enjoyed it very much.
I did too, man. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you down the road.
All right. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye. This has been another fun filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quentin at quentinhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.